everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lottie and today we are doing the second round of my cat books vlogs. So yes, this is round 2 of reading books about cats, literally what it says on the tin. If you want, I will leave a link in the description and in the cards as well to my first installment of this little mini vlog series where I read 3 books about cats and vlogged my thoughts on them. We've got 3 more books that I'm going to be reading in this vlog for you, so here they are. 3 books about cats. I'm going to first of all tell you about them and kind of give you my sort of initial thoughts based on like the synopsis, which ones I'm most excited to read, and then we'll get on with the vlog. So the first one is the one that was on my TBR Scrolls TBR for March and April, and it is The Cat Who Caught a Killer by L.T. Shearer. So this I picked up when I went to Edinburgh. I was just looking at the new hardbacks display and it was half price, so I thought this would be perfect for my cat books vlog. So let's read the blurb. Meet Conrad. You've never met a cat like him before. Neither has Lulu Lewis when he walks into her life one summer's day. Mourning the recent death of her husband, the former police detective had expected a gentle retirement, quietly enjoying life on her new canal boat, the Lark, and visiting her mother-in-law Emily in a nearby care home. But when Emily dies suddenly in suspicious circumstances, Lulu senses foul play and resolves to find out what really happened, and a remarkable cat named Conrad will be with her every step of the way. So it's pretty much a mystery. It does give me, and I've mentioned this before on my channel, The Bullet That Missed, what's this called? The Richard Osman's books. The Bullet That Missed is the third one, I think. What's the first one? The Thursday Murder Club. It gives me those sort of vibes where it's like a cozy, light murder mystery, less thriller, more about solving the mystery and about the relationships of the characters, I guess. I've not actually read Richard Osman's books, but based on what my customers at the library kind of tell me about his books, I feel like it's that sort of vibe. So I am intrigued to read this one. I've never read a straight up like mystery before. I do tend to stay away from crime quite a lot. It's just not a genre that really appeals to me very much, but I could not resist this cat on this book when I picked it up. I just could not resist it, and I am sort of interested to see how I'll feel about crime and mystery. I do kind of like thrillers. I don't read a lot of thrillers, but I love watching thriller films. But when I think of like crime and mystery, I either think of Agatha Christie, who does not appeal to me at all, or I think about the Norwegian, Swedish crime books that my mom loves to read, which, not that they don't appeal to me, they're just very dark, and I don't know, I just don't really care for crime basically. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how I'm going to feel about this. That's the first book. The second one is The Dalai Lama's Cat by David Michie, which is a little bit of a literary fiction, I believe. So let's read the blurb to get an idea of what it's going to be about. How would the Dalai Lama react when presented with the gift of a dead mouse? A malnourished slum kitten is carried back to the beautiful sanctuary by the Dalai Lama himself. Her arresting blue eyes are slowly shown everything that the Buddhist leader's life, timeless wisdom that comes only in the quietest moments between animal and man. You'll follow His Holiness's cat as she rubs up against Hollywood stars, teaches lessons at the feet of Buddhist masters, and learns how a Bodhisattva deals with life in the 21st century, and soon see why a cat has the best vantage point on the fragility and beauty in all humans. So it feels a bit like a slice of life literary fiction, in my opinion. I do know that the author has written books about Buddhism before, so I do feel like it's going to have a very spiritual, maybe religious tone to it. I don't like books with religion in them, kind of as a general rule. whether it's fictional or a real religion. However, I am interested to see how I'll get on with this because my granddad is a Buddhist and my uncle was a Buddhist, so I don't know, I might enjoy it. I do have the audiobook for this on Audible, so what I'll probably do with this book is listen and read along. It'll be especially good for me on my commute when I'm reading this because it means I can carry on reading it when I'm like walking to the bus stop instead of just on the bus, if that makes sense. But I am currently reading Queen of Air and Darkness at the moment, which is my audiobook at the moment, so if I'm gonna listen to the audio for this, it will be after I finished Queen of Air and Darkness. So that's the second book. So the final book I'm going to be reading in this vlog is She and Her Cats by Makoto Shinkai, and let's read the blurb for this one before I kind of tell you what I'm going to think about it. On the outskirts of Tokyo, in a neighbourhood crossed by a commuter railway, local cats weave their way through lives and homes as their owners navigate difficult times. A cat named Toby sends silent messages of courage to a young woman willing her to end a faltering relationship. A gifted artist fatally misunderstands her boss's enthusiasm for her paintings. A manga fan shuts herself away after the death of her friend, while her cat Cookie hatches a plan to lure her outside. A woman who has dedicated her life to a distant husband learns a lesson in independence from her cat. Against an open backdrop of humming trains and private woes, She and Her Cat explores the gentle magic of the everyday. Populated by both the friendly and the feral, it reveals with heart-stopping wisdom and warmth how even in our darkest moments, community and connection may lead us to a happier place. Which sounds so cute. And also, this was gifted to me by Melissa as a late birthday gift. This was the only book that didn't quite make it into my January haul because it came, I think, after I'd filmed it. Like, it came the day I filmed that video, and it came after I'd like finished recording, so I was like, it's gonna have to go into February, March, whatever one, which obviously hasn't not been filmed yet. So this, I have a story behind this book. So I saw it in the window of Waterstones. It must have been when it was just came out because there was hundreds of copies like in the window on a display, and I saw it and I was like, I need this book. I need this book. And then Melissa very kindly got it for me for my birthday. Look at the cat on the cover. It is gorgeous. It's so beautiful. But the fun thing about this book is it's actually written by the person who made Your Name, which is like a really famous anime movie. I have seen it a while ago now, and I do remember really enjoying it. So I'm intrigued to like see how the author's writing comes across instead. Obviously it's translated from Japanese, and sometimes with translations like motion, meaning, whatever, can be lost. However, the translator is the translator of Convenience Store Woman, which I have not read, but it's a book I'm interested in reading, and I'm guessing if it's written on the cover that it's translated by this person, it must be a pretty good translation, you know? So I'm very interested to read this book. It is the only Japanese translated fiction we've got on this little mini TBR for this vlog, but I'm very interested to read this. I feel like this is going to be a sad one. To be honest, I do feel this is going to be a sad one. So these are the 3 books that I'm going to be reading for this vlog. Let me know in the comments down below which one you think I'm going to enjoy the most, and also let me know if you have read any of these and what you thought of them. So we're going to start with The Cat Who Caught a Killer because it is the one that's on my actual TBR for the month, and I have actually already started it. So I've read 1 chapter so far. I read it last night just to kind of get a feel of it, and already I'm very, very excited. So there won't be spoilers in this vlog, do not worry. However, I will just mention, because it is in the first chapter, the cat can talk. The cat can talk. I'm already very, very excited. I don't know if it's going to be a little bit fantastical because the cat can talk, but I am getting that slight like speculative vibe from it because the cat can talk. Oh my god. So with the first chapter, basically Lulu and Conrad kind of meet. Lulu is on her canal boat. Conrad just struts along as cats do, and Lulu starts off by like just seeing him and thinking he's definitely a Tom because of the way he struts about, but he's also a calico cat, which is unusual because most calico cats are girls. And I really appreciated that was on the first page that was mentioned, because I did think like, if he's a boy and he's a calico, like that's not normal, like it's very unusual for that to happen. So I was very pleased that was mentioned on the first page because I'm a massive cat nerd, I'm a crazy cat lady. Like, you were going to see so much b-roll of my cats in this vlog, so if you were just here for that, yeah. But yeah, I'm glad that they mentioned that on the first page. I don't know if that's going to be significant to the actual plot and maybe why Conrad can talk, but also this is another thing. Lulu is convinced that she's dreaming because she can talk to Conrad, because Conrad is talking to her. So I don't know if it's going to turn out he actually can't talk, but he can talk at the moment. So I'm very, very excited. But I'm going to be carrying on, obviously, with this book for the rest of the day, week, however long it takes me to finish it. But that was just like my initial thoughts on the first chapter. The cat can talk. So I'm now 100 pages into this book and I have very mixed feelings. So I'm trying to see it in, my cat's just put his paw right on my knee. Okay. Yeah, I'm very mixed feelings. So I'm trying to see it in two mindsets. Let's talk about the actual book first and the plot. I feel like I have worked out who the killer is already, and because I don't read a lot of mystery, I'm quite disappointed that I feel like I've worked it out so soon. So what's happened is Lulu goes to visit her mother-in-law in her mother-in-law's care home, and she finds out that the mother-in-law has died very suddenly. So this woman, she is in her 90s, she's got Alzheimer's, but she is physically fit. And Lulu suspects foul play, but I feel like the idea that there has possibly been a murder is only really supported by the fact that Conrad the cat can see auras of people. And he has said that people who are sick, people who are dying, they have a black aura. And he told Lulu the day before when she went to visit her mother-in-law that her mother-in-law's aura was fine. She was, you know, apart from the fact that she's got Alzheimer's, she was healthy, she was happy. And then the next day she's suddenly dead. So I feel like this is the only real bit of evidence we've got that there has been a murder. And it's fair enough for Lulu to be suspicious, because even if we didn't have this thing with auras, her mother-in-law was fine the day before. But I just feel like it's a bit like, what are you basing your evidence off that you think she's been murdered? So there's been a little bit of sort of deduction on like how she could have actually died. It wasn't just Alzheimer's. And then we have a little bit of a list of possible suspects based on people who have visited Emily, I think is the mother-in-law's name, over the last few days. So we're kind of getting to a point where Lulu and Conrad are going to interview basically their suspects, and I feel like I've already worked out who has probably murdered Emily, and what their motive likely is. I don't want to say obviously in this vlog because it will spoil things in case you want to read this. So I'm a little bit like, this is very simple. First of all, the second thing is more to do with the author. So I did have a little look on Goodreads and saw a few 1-star reviews, and I also have noticed this a little bit throughout the book. Pretty sure the author is a COVID denier and a Tory. Now, I try not to particularly care about who authors are as people, unless it starts to become obvious in their books. And there's been a few times in this where the author has brought up COVID, and the way they discuss it is a bit, come on. Then there's stuff they talk about with politics, and I don't mind having like characters with different political opinions and religious beliefs, because it does make it more believable. I just don't see why it needs to be mentioned a lot. I don't think it's relevant to the story or the plot, and I don't particularly enjoy it in my books. So I'm going to keep reading this, but I'm going to read it with a pinch of salt because I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about the author in the end. But in general, am I enjoying this? Yeah, I would say it's around about a 3-star at the moment. We will see how I feel as it progresses. I think if I am right about who I think is the killer, it's definitely going to be dropped down to a 2, maybe even a 1. We will see. I'm really sorry about my hair. I really need to wash it, and it just looks a bit of a mess right now. But I have just finished The Cat Who Caught a Killer on Tory Sprints, so I'm very pleased that she invited me to come on Sprints today, because I've been struggling to find the motivation to read this. I don't remember what I said in my last update to you, but I did bookmark a couple of the pages just so that I could bring a few things up, because this book has been weird. So I remember saying to you guys that it was very like anti-COVID, like COVID denying, a bit Tory. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that the police say as well. So the main character, she is an ex-police officer, retired, and she still has pretty good contact with someone she worked with who helps a lot with doing stuff for the case. Very plot convenience, because I feel like the conclusion of this book could not have happened if she had not had these connections, which is, you know, fair enough. You know, it is a crime novel at the end of the day. I do remember the first thing that I tabbed, that her colleague, friend Phil was saying to her. They're sort of kind of discussing just the police in general, and how police seem to be dealing with people whinging on social media instead of actual work. And Phil says, I've lost count the number of guys who've been kicked out of the job for something they said, often in jest. The bosses were encouraged us to use WhatsApp groups to share intel, but then they started spying on the groups. Worse than that, they were getting guys from professional standards to join under false identities, and then they'd start egging people on. And then Lulu says entrapment. With a capital E, boss, I mean, there's no excuse for racism or sexist comments, but banter is banter, right? I know as well as anyone the difference between a bit of leg pulling and an outright racist remark, but these days you can't afford to put a foot wrong. I can remember back in the day when you might describe a young tearaway as a bit of a monkey, you'd get the sack for that now. Things have changed, Phil, you know that. For the worst, said Phil. As soon as my pension is locked in, I'm off. That very nearly made me DNF this book. I thought it was a very poor taste, disgusting remark, especially since Phil is meant to be a bit of a hero character. He helps to solve the case in the end. That was disgusting to read. That was awful. Not only the fact that it is a racist comment, and fair enough, you can have racist characters in here. I feel like if we're going to have racist characters, sexist characters, transphobic, homophobic, whatever characters in books, they don't need to be the hero. They are very much going to be the villain of a story. And the fact that this really made me think about, I think it was Sarah Everard who was murdered by a police officer. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of that case was discussed about the fact that police officers were in a WhatsApp group making disgusting comments about victims, about, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but it just made me think of this. And I thought it was very, very poor taste for the author to have written that. It made me feel physically sick. It makes me feel really angry now to talk to you guys about it, and it very nearly made me want to put this book down. I wanted to carry on though, because I did want to see if it was going to get worse. It didn't, fortunately, but even still, that was a vile comment that did not need to be in the book. And then there was one that I have tabbed while I was just finishing off the book. So let me see. Yeah, so this was going back to how the police seem to be dealing with stuff on social media more. So Phil, once again, says hurt feelings on social media is a big issue for the police these days. Thefts from the recently deceased, not so much. So I get it. If someone has been in the job for a long time, they might feel like they're not doing real work if they're dealing with like social media cases, for example. But a lot of crimes are committed on social media. These hurt feelings are probably a reference to people who are snowflakes and who have been victims of hate crimes and the such. So I feel like that's what that's in reference to be honest, which again does not sit well with me. So the book itself, the person who I thought had committed the crime, pretty much I was right from the very, very start. I'm obviously not going to discuss who it is, just in case you do still want to read this book and find out for yourself. Yeah, I had pretty much worked it out from the very beginning, but the way things happened in the end I thought was quite interesting. However, the way we found out about what was actually going on and what had happened, it was all tell, no show. Yes, the main character is a retired police officer, but a lot of the detective work is done by other people and then they tell her about it, so it was a bit boring in that sense. And the fact that this book is called The Cat Who Caught a Killer, Conrad has a very minimal role in the story, apart from the fact that he can see auras and kind of keeps Lulu company throughout the story. And I was a bit disappointed by that. I would have liked to have seen him play a larger role and even been a bit of a caricature of like Sherlock Holmes in a way, rather than kind of just being very passive. You know, there was really no point. Like this probably could have gone the same way had he not been there, but Lulu wouldn't have had that initial inkling, I guess, to start investigate what happened to her mother-in-law. I've compiled it 2.5 stars. Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I felt like it was boring, and also there was a lot of stuff in here that I just didn't appreciate. It's not put me off crime. I would try crime again. I'm still interested in reading Richard Osman's books, and I feel like they're going to be of a similar tone. This is definitely described as cozy crime, but I feel like until the last 60 to 50 pages, a lot of the sleuthing wasn't happening, and it did all come out in the very end, but again it was just telling and not showing us, which was a bit disappointing to read. And then of course there's the disgusting character of Phil, who is meant to be Lulu's friend, so we're supposed to see him in a positive light, and he is a terrible person. I did like the discussions about Lulu's grief in here, because there is a bit in the middle which I did kind of feel it was a little bit taking away from the plot, but it was sort of nice because Lulu was basically just very much dealing with her grief and not a lot of detective work was going on, because Lulu wasn't doing any of the detective work anyway, but a lot of the sleuthing was paused in this period where she was kind of just walking around and remembering her mother-in-law. And again, her mother-in-law might not have been like a good person, but it was nice to sort of reflect on Lulu's relationship with her and kind of see the way that grief was talked about. I did appreciate that a little bit, but overall this book was not it. I'm probably going to be unhauling it. I probably will end up actually donating this to the library, and I've said before that I'm going to donate books I'm unhauling to the library, but this I think would go down very well with some of our branch libraries, so I definitely think I'm going to donate this. Crime is very, very popular across my company is a council. But yeah, crime is really popular with the residents where I work, so I feel like this would go down well with them, although I don't want to share this book because of some of the gross comments in here. I know some people won't care about that sort of thing, unfortunately. So I think this will go down very well at the library, so I'm going to end up probably actually taking it into work to be donated and added to our collection. But I'm very disappointed by this. So as I said, I'm on tourist sprints at the moment. I've left everything downstairs, so I'm not going to show you because I'm upstairs in my room. But I think I'm going to start She and Her Cat next, because that's just what I'm going to start next for this vlog. Yeah, that's it, I guess, for this update. I'm just very tired right now. I'm just so tired. I'm really close to finishing my course. I've submitted my report. I'm just getting ready for the presentation now, and yeah, I'm just really tired. But I'm going to Sheffield tomorrow. I'm going to go see Set It Off. I have paid for VIP, but I've had absolutely no communication about how that works or what time I need to get there for, so I'm a little bit worried about that. I do remember seeing on the booking thing that it was like it could start about 4 p.m, but like I don't know if that's set in stone because I've not had a confirmation of that. I don't have that written down anywhere, like on an email. But I can't check into my hotel until 3 o'clock, so I'm a little bit like, that's a very close turnaround for me to bimbo find myself. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So yeah, I'm gonna go downstairs, back to the sprints, and probably start She and Her Cat. Hey guys, so I got home from Sheffield earlier because I went to see Set It Off last night. I had a banging time. I did VIP. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I did VIP. First experience doing that. It was fantastic. I loved it. But I got home, I had a fat nap because I didn't sleep very well last night, but I did read a little bit more of She and Her Cat. I don't think I've given you guys an update on this yet. I was hoping to finish it earlier, but I needed to sleep. It's not very long. It's only about 150 pages and I'm on page 127. But I'm really loving it so far. It's so beautifully written and it's just a really sweet story. So we're following 4 different people, 4 different cats. One of mine has just decided to leave in this. So the first one we're following is Chobi and his owner, whose name we do not know. And Chobi was a stray kitten. She's really got a scratch at the door. She's gonna have to wait. Chobi was a stray cat, and he was abandoned in a box, and I think he's pretty much like about to give up and die when this woman finds him and takes him in. And then we're also following this little kitten called Mimi, who is a stray. She was abandoned because she is the runt of the litter. Her previous owner couldn't find like a home for her because she's not just the runt of the litter, she's also partially deaf and weak, so like nobody wanted her, which is so sad. And then we're also following 2 other cats who are kind of interconnected with Chobi and Mimi, and sort of their story. All of these cats, it's sort of a story of them finding a home, I think. I'm halfway through the 4th chapter, which I think is going to be the last one, and then there's an epilogue at the end, and it's just really nice to read about these cats and their story, and also the things that their owners go through and sort of deal with. It's all pretty heavy stuff. One of them is going through a pretty bad breakup. One of them, she is trying to make it in the art world, and she does this internship and thinking that the company is like really interested in her work, and the like boss basically is only interested in her. There is sort of a trigger warning for sexual assault. Nothing actually happens, but it's probably something to be aware of. And then there's another person who is dealing with the death of a friend. It's all very tragic. It's all quite sad, but it's nice to see how the cats in these stories bring comfort to their owners, and so many of the cats I can relate to because they remind me a lot of my own cats, especially Mimi. Mimi reminds me a lot of Cora, and I did tear up a little bit at her chapter because I don't know what Cora went through before she came to live with us. she was a stray that was rescued and then we took her in. But a lot of what happens to Mimi, I feel like Cora might have had the same things, and it was really sad. But I really like the way that we get dual perspective with the humans and the cats as well. I love reading from the perspective of the cats and seeing the world through their eyes, and there is something about the author's interpretation of how cats see the world that I really love. And it's the same from when I read the Travelling Cat Chronicles. I loved the cat's perspective in that, and I just love seeing how we as humans kind of interpret what a cat's perspective would be like. And I think that is my real niche that I found through doing these vlogs, that I love Japanese translated fiction about cats. I haven't read much Japanese translated fiction beyond cat books, but I do really love them about cats, and particularly ones that have perspectives of cats in them. So I keep asking for recommendations from you guys, like if you've heard of any books that have from the perspective of cats, whether it's first person or third person, but just through the cat's eyes, like please, even if like any country that it's come from. I feel like that's what I want to read more of, just more books inside a cat's head. But I'm really loving this. Hoping to finish it either tonight or maybe tomorrow morning. I've got the day off work, but I'm going to be spending most of the day preparing for my presentation for the end of my apprenticeship. So at least I don't have to go into work to do it, but I do need to sort of work on it because I need to submit the PowerPoint on Wednesday through like all the official like examiner channels and stuff. So I will be working on that tomorrow, but I'm hoping to finish this maybe tomorrow morning or tonight, and then I will move on to the Dalai Lama's cat, which I'm interested to see how I'm going to find that one. But yeah, I'm really loving this. I wasn't aware of this when I picked it up, but I think that Makoto Shinkai has done an anime, and then he's written this novel adapted from his anime, and I would really love to watch the anime for this as well when I've finished it, because I loved Your Name and I would love to see more of his work. So yeah, I feel like this is going to be 5 stars. I feel like it's going to be a new favourite, up there with the Travelling Cat Chronicles. I'm loving this. Obviously, like when I read the Cat Who Saved Books as well, for the last vlog, I loved that book as well, and that I feel like is a favourite of mine, but I loved it for all different reasons to what I love about this one and the Travelling Cat Chronicles, because that one was really more about the books and the characters' relationships with reading rather than about the cat himself. Like the cat was kind of just a vessel for these things to occur rather than like the story being about the cat. And I definitely feel like I'm preferring the contemporary stories that are sort of just slice of life literary fiction about these cats and their relationships with their owners. And I think because I am a cat owner and I love my cats so much, and I just love cats in general, like I feel like that's why I'm loving these stories so much. But I'm very interested to see how I'm going to feel about the Dalai Lama's cat, because I feel like it's going to be the similar sort of thing where it is about a cat and their owner, but it's going to be very different because I feel like there's going to be a lot of discussions about spirituality, Buddhism, and kind of what the Dalai Lama does in his daily life. So I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen with that one. And then the 3rd installment of this vlog series, I do have some more cat books obviously, but this 3rd installment, I feel like I've saved a lot of books that are going to be from the perspective of cats for that vlog, completely unintentionally. It was mainly based on the length of the books that I've kind of decided how I've divided up this vlog series. But the 3rd installment, I feel like there's going to be a lot more books that are from the perspective of cats, or at least partially from the perspective of cats. So I'm very excited to do that one for you, maybe sometime later this year. But I don't have any other cat books other than enough for that 3rd vlog at the moment. Someone has recommended to me Junji Ito's manga about his cats, so I've put that on my Amazon wishlist so I don't forget about it. That is one I would like to read as well. But yeah, if you guys have any recommendations for books about cats or with cats as main characters, I would love to read them. I know there's like books about cats is a very broad kind of category, but knowing the sort of books I've been reading for these vlogs, like you kind of know the kind of books I'm looking for to do like this vlog series for. But yeah, if you've got any recommendations or if you've heard of any that I haven't mentioned on my channel before, please let me know, because I want to keep this vlog series up because I'm loving reading all these books about these cats. Whether or not I enjoy the book is another question, you know, with the Makoto Shinkai, but yeah, I just love cats so much. All my updates in this vlog have been different variations of this plain ass background. But hi you guys, I finished She and Her Cat earlier today, so I thought I'd give you a little update with my thoughts. 5 stars. It was so good. It was so sweet. It was absolutely lovely. It made me tear up at the end. I just loved it so much. There's not really much more I can talk about with it other than what I've already said, because it is so short and spoilers, but it was just beautifully written, so beautifully written. I would love to read more from Makoto Shinkai in future, and I'm definitely going to seek out the anime that this is based on as well, because it was absolutely stunning. It was simple, but in a good way. Like, it didn't need to be this elaborate plot. It was just a nice little slice of life. I loved seeing the perspective of the cats. I feel like I wish it had been a bit longer, just so we could sort of get to know the human characters a little bit more, understand their struggles, and sort of really get that emotional impact. But it was a very, very sweet novella. I feel like it is going to stay with me for a very, very long time, and possibly be up there as a new favourite. We will see. I don't know, I feel like it's going to end up on my favourite books of the year list, and it's March. So yeah, I loved it so much. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was just so sweet. But yeah, I did mention at the start of this video that this was gifted to me from Melissa. So thank you so much, Melissa. It was just so sweet. It was just lovely. Yeah, I don't know, it was just beautiful. But I am then going to start The Dalai Lama's Cat by David Michie. I'm not sure if I'm going to start tonight or early tomorrow when I'm on my way to work, because sadly I do have to go to work tomorrow. I had a day off today, but I did spend a lot of the day preparing for my presentation I have to do for my apprenticeship. I think I've managed to get the timing just right for that, so I have to submit the PowerPoint presentation, because I had to write a report that was in on Friday, and then 5 days later I have to submit the presentation, and then I do the presentation at the end of the month. So I'm not really sure why I had to submit the presentation 5 days after the report, but there's the rules. But so I've submitted that now, because I think I've got it edited to a point where it will be the right length. But yeah, I've had some time off work this week, so I have to go in tomorrow morning to do a children's activity, but I've booked the afternoon off, so I get to come home early, which is nice. It's just getting up in the morning that I just don't want to face, because last night I stayed up way too late playing The Sims, and after I've done this update and had a shower, I'm actually going to go and play The Sims again. So that's why I said I don't know if I want to start this tonight or tomorrow. But I am still reading the last Dark Artifices book, but I haven't picked it up for a few days because I am listening to the audio, and I usually only listen to audio while I'm commuting to and from work, and because I haven't been at work over the last few days, I haven't listened to it, and so in fact, while I've been commuting, I've not even been concentrating on it that much, so I've been trying to avoid listening to it because I don't want to just listen to it and then not take in what's happening. But I did mention that I was thinking of listening to the audio for this while I read it, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do, because I don't like having two audiobooks on the go at the same time, but I also don't want to wait to read this book because that defeats the purpose of this vlog and reading these books back to back. So I don't know, I'm probably going to put down Queen of Air and Darkness for a little bit while I read this, because I want to listen and read along, which will probably make me get through it faster, I don't know. But yeah, I'm very intrigued. I've had a little flick through to kind of have an idea of what's the sort of vibe is, I guess, of this book, and I think it is all in first person from the cat's perspective. I'm very, very intrigued if that is the case, because I've found that I love the perspective of animals in these books, and kind of our as in humans interpretation of the perspective of cats. So I'm very, very intrigued to get to this. Yeah, I'm not sure what to expect from it, so yeah. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna go play The Sims in a bit, because the new game pack thing, what's it called, Growing Together, came out last week, and it's actually really good. And also there was the Infants update, so I'm just like living vicariously through my Sims with this baby, because I don't want a human baby, because that's actually a lot of work, but a virtual baby is fine. Also, I'm not sure if there's been that much b-roll of my cats in this vlog thus far, because I feel like I've not been taking that many, but it's because they're not very well at the moment. They're actually a bit unwell. We have one cat who goes outside a lot. He just likes to go and roam the neighbourhood, and we feel like he's probably brought something back, and they've all had this kind of cold, and it's been really sad because they've just all been sort of very miserable, just sleeping all the time. Like they're fine. We've been taking care of them and everything, but because they're just always asleep, there's not really much for me to show you other than them asleep. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm knackered because I stayed up so late last night, so I feel like I'm just chatting now. I'm just talking non-stop, and because I've rehearsed my presentation like 3 times today, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. But yeah, I'm gonna go and have a shower and eat a cream egg and play my game. I thought I'd give us a reading update with Monty having a bath in the background. If I look dishevelled, it's because I've just done hoovering and mopping. So yeah, and I'm waiting for the mopping to dry. So I thought this would be a perfect time to give you a little update on what I'm reading. So I'm halfway through, maybe more than halfway through actually, The Dalai Lama's Cat by David Michie, as I've learned his name is pronounced. So I've been listening to this on Audible and also reading along with it. It is kind of what I was expecting. I expected a lot of discussions about Buddhism, about spirituality, about the teachings of Buddhism with the cat in it, and it is told from the cat's perspective, and it's kind of like the cat has written this book and then we are receiving the book from the cat, which I do like. I'm not quite so interested in the very spiritual discussions that are going on in this. It's just not something that I prioritize in my life, but I do appreciate them, and I kind of feel like maybe after reading this I should take a step back, maybe look into doing meditation and, you know, stuff like that. But I do appreciate this is told from the cat's perspective. The cat has many names and is rescued by the Dalai Lama in the slums of India after she is like found by these kids who just want to sell these cats for some money because they are very clearly very valuable cats, because I think they are a litter of Himalayan kittens. So these kids go to sell these cats, and this cat that the story is told from the perspective of, I think she's dropped on her back, so she has like wobbly leg syndrome or something, which I think is just really sweet. And then the Dalai Lama sees her and rescues her, so she goes to live with him and kind of follows like her life, but like his teachings. So she's always sort of observing what he's doing, what he discusses, and I like that the cat can understand what the Dalai Lama is saying, you know, the characters are saying as well. And the cat is kind of torn between like instincts of a cat and the general vanity of cats, and the teachings of Buddhism. So for example, the first time she sort of really goes out on her own after being rescued, she catches a mouse, and this mouse, it's still alive, but the kind of staff of the Dalai Lama rescue the mouse and like, oh my goodness me, like, what do they call her? They call her Mousy, and they're kind of like teasing her about the fact that she's caught this mouse, but she's the Dalai Lama's cat. And she's like, oh yeah, you know, I never really saw it from the mouse's perspective about like, does the mouse want to be caught and eaten and killed? But I also do feel like there's a bit of a conflict. Like the cat recognises that it's in her instinct to catch mice, but then she's like, I am above this, I am better than this. And I do feel like that takes me a little bit out of the fact that this is just an ordinary story about an ordinary animal. But I do like that they kind of talk about how, I think it's sort of, it's like karmic energy, and then the cat must have very high karmic energy with the Dalai Lama for them to have crossed paths in the way that they did. So I kind of like that it does bring in that spirituality stuff. At the end of the day, this is a religious book. The author, I think, is a practitioner of Buddhism, and he has written non-fiction books about spirituality and Buddhism. So I feel like this is kind of a way to talk about Buddhism, but in a fictional, almost whimsical kind of way. It is the first in a series. I will not be carrying on with the series once I've read this book, because I just don't have any particular interest in it, but I am enjoying it. It's just, it reads a bit like a non-fiction, even though it's from the cat's perspective, but it feels like it is a book about spirituality and Buddhism, which at the end of the day it is, and I don't mind that. And I did anticipate that going into this, knowing the title and having also looked up about the author page as well, so I could understand exactly what I was getting myself into. I'm just not particularly interested in reading books about religion, whether they are fiction or non-fiction, or if it's a real religion or if it's a fictitious religion. I just don't like books with very religious themes. I feel like with this though, I can enjoy it a little bit more than if it was a very almost strict and structured religion such as Christianity. Like I just don't agree with very structured religions, and the way, like, this is just my personal opinion, so please don't be offended, like, if anything I'm about to say, like, if you're a religious person, but don't be offended about anything I'm about to say. But I just don't really agree with structured religions, because I feel like in the past they were a way to control people, and, you know, I feel like in today's society we are a little bit above that. But I do appreciate that people believe in stuff, and I think it's really nice to believe in something. I just personally don't. But something like Buddhism, where it does focus more on spirituality, and they do believe in sort of a higher power with the Buddhas, but as far as I'm aware there isn't like a god, which I do kind of feel like if I was a religious person, something like Buddhism is something I'd be more likely to lean into rather than a very strict, structured religion such as Christianity. I don't know, I feel like of all the teachings of religions that I'm aware of, like Buddhism is the one that I kind of agree with the most, but I'm still not a very spiritual religious person. So that's why I'm feeling a bit like, it doesn't feel like it's preaching to me in this book. But at the same time, I do kind of feel like I just don't really care for the religious discussions. But I am aware, like I knew that they were going to be there going into it. So, but I do enjoy seeing the cat's perspective and the cat's conflict of like being a cat and also being a Buddhist cat. Like it's quite interesting. But I think I have just under 100 pages to go. So I can't remember how many pages long exactly it is, but it's around 200. So I think I'm going to read this for a little bit while I wait for the floors to dry. Yeah, and then I guess I'll update you guys when I finished it, and then that'll be the end of the vlog. Wow, I feel like this vlog's gone so quickly. Like it took me a while to get through the first book, but that's just because I didn't enjoy it. But Monty, he's asleep on... There's actually a wine rack, but we put blankets on top of it, and Monty has decided he likes to sleep on it. So I have realised I never actually finished this vlog. It's been weeks. It's been weeks since I finished this book. It's nearly the end of May and I read this in March. I've done like 3 other vlogs since and I just completely forgot that I never wrapped up this vlog and like told you my final thoughts about this book. In fact, I think I've already talked about this book in my March like wrap up. So yeah, this was just a pretty average book for me. I just couldn't ever really get into it because of the nature of it and how focused on like Buddhist teachings it is, and it just unfortunately was something that I was never that interested in, but I enjoyed seeing the perspective of the cat and kind of a little insight into how like the Dalai Lama's daily life is, how busy he is, the kind of people he meets with, and also those little Buddhist teachings kind of at the forefront of it all. I just, yeah, it was just okay in the end. I think I rated it 3 stars. Definitely, like, I'm never probably going to carry on because it is a series. I'm never going to like carry on with the series, but it was sort of a nice little change of pace. But again, I was just kind of like, I feel like my life would have been the same had I never picked this book up, but I'm kind of glad that I did, just to kind of see a different kind of book to what I usually read. But that's the thing about these little cat books vlogs, like I don't typically pick up the kind of genres that these books tend to be, so it's nice to kind of have that little bit of a change every now and then, because as you guys know, I'm very much like a fantasy reader, so it's nice to see a little bit of a different thing. But I think definitely, like, of all the books that I've read for these 2 vlogs so far, my favourites have been the more slice of life, literary, translated ones that have been from the perspective of the cats. So yeah, it's been so long since I finished it now that unfortunately I can't really go into too much depth with like my thoughts on it. It was just average for me, so yeah. So that of course does bring the vlog to a close. These are obviously the 3 books that I read for this vlog. If you've seen my quarter wrap up now, you'll already know like the kind of ratings and feelings I had on these books, but I would definitely say that She and Her Cat was my favourite of the 3 that I read in this vlog. I absolutely love this. I feel like it's up there with like one of my new favourites. I definitely think I enjoyed it on the same sort of level as The Travelling Cat Chronicles, which is a book that I read in the previous vlog. So I'm definitely looking forward to picking up more Japanese translated fiction that focuses on cats. Like, it's definitely a little niche that I found that I really, really love. But I would say that this one, The Cat Who Caught a Killer, was my least favourite. I I just didn't enjoy it like at all. And looking back on it, like I kind of wish that I DNF'd it or something, because it just made me feel really, really uncomfortable. So I don't know, like I definitely want to read more mysteries in the future. Like I enjoyed the mystery aspect of it, but I think because it's not a very good example of a mystery, I just didn't enjoy it that much. And then obviously I don't really have anything to say about the Dalai Lama's cat because it was just completely average for me. I rated it 3 stars. I think it was literally like a 5 core pile rating as well, so it was very mid-ground. It was very difficult to rate in that sense because I just didn't really care for it, but also I didn't think it was bad. It's just it's a religious book at the end of the day. Like it focuses a lot on religion and Buddhism, and I'm not interested in that. So yeah, it was a bit of a shame really, but I kind of knew what to expect going into it, so yeah. So that is it for this vlog, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do remember to give it a big thumbs up, and let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of the books that I talked about in this vlog, and if you would be likely to pick any of them up. I probably would say the only one I can recommend is She and Her Cat, whereas the other 2, like, maybe give them a miss. But yeah, let me know as well if you've got any recommendations for books about cats in the same sort of nature of the 2 vlogs I have done so far. If you haven't already and you would like to be, please do consider subscribing. I post a new video every single week, and that is it from me today, guys. Bye!